Aloha! Welcome to Island Time. This is our Week 11 preview. I am BuckMetrics, joined as always by Robert Martin. And joined this time, graciously sitting in for Duck, is our guy, the most made man in the pack in the Big Ten. Jeez, what a slip by me. In the Big Ten footprint of the Sharpest college football podcast universe, Isaiah. Isaiah, thank you for sitting in for Duck. You've got some big shoes to fill, but I have faith in you, as does Robert.
I appreciate the confidence in me. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. I know you guys were both up late. I'm guessing late-ish last night, both being political nerds as we're recording this on a Wednesday. So, if you're gonna nod off, just let me know, and I'll cut off your camera, and I don't know, we'll plug through. So, anyways, looking forward to these games this week. Isaiah, we are going to start by bringing you into a discussion that just kind of vexed me when I discussed this with Robert. I think, first of all, correct me if I'm not, this number went down. Oregon giving it dipped down to 5.5, if I saw correctly, and it's back up to 6, or
When I checked it today, it was at 6 again
okay,
because I had been watching this line too, and it might have moved around depending on where you were looking, but I've only seen it at 6.
okay,
I've seen some 6.5s on FanDuel, but yeah, basically around this number.
okay. So Isaiah, I'm just going to succinctly put forth why I think this line specifically is so interesting. And maybe I'll just start let me walk you through my thought process, and then I'll kind of throw it to you with a question based off that. Using my kind of way of coming to what I think is a decent line. If I was going to bet Iowa on this game on a neutral field, I would want 14.5. If I'm Oregon, I'd probably give 6.5 comfortably. So I average those, I get to 11. Is Kinnick really worth 5 points?
I think you have a couple things going on in this game, and this line is fascinating. I agree because first of all, it just stinks to me. This line just completely stinks, and it's interesting to me. I think you guys mentioned it on the weekly pod this week. About how you would think that this line would just go to 7 right away, go to 7.5. The fact that it has stayed pretty consistently at 6 is really interesting to me. Kinnick is a tough place to play, but is it worth that many points? I don't know. So is the question, when you're looking at this from the odds maker's perspective, not necessarily, oh, well, it's Kinnick and weird things happen when Iowa plays good teams at Kinnick, or is there some hesitancy on what Oregon is, or is there some confidence on what Iowa is? I think all of these things kind of play together. I think this is an interesting spot for Iowa because they're playing really quite good right now. They look good. Their offense looks pretty darn serviceable. I mean, and it's not just, with them blowing out Minnesota the other week or whatever. They look like they have an actual functional offense. And obviously the defenses look very good, like you'd expect an Iowa team to look. So I kind of turned to Oregon in this game, and I feel like this is the game where you have to ask, what is this Oregon team like? Because I don't really think we have a lot of samples on what Oregon is other than that Indiana game where they kind of got dominated. And for people who have maybe forgotten, Iowa also played Indiana. Iowa only lost to Indiana by 5 in a game that they probably should have won if Gronowski didn't get hurt late in the fourth quarter. And they also missed a field goal, if I remember correctly, that set up Indiana's winning drive. This Iowa team has they have the ability to win these big games, and then I think I looked at this game and it's just like, well, if Oregon is going to be the team that we thought maybe they could be in the preseason, and is going to be a legitimate playoff contender, they need to come in here, and I wouldn't even say just win this game. I think they do need to cover the number. I think they need to show that it's like, okay, this is tough place to play, tough defense, but we're gonna come out here and just show that we're the better team. I kind of like the spot for Iowa. I don't know if I want to bet it because it is such a stink line. But I do kind of like this spot for Iowa and like this prove it spot for them. But I think whoever wins this game or even whatever the margin ends up being, we've learned a lot about these teams. Boy, if Iowa were to win this game, that really throws a wrench into the Big Ten picture. Maybe not from the championship side, but now you got to start looking at, okay, look at Iowa's schedule to finish the season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what happens if they finish 10-2?
Oh, I think they're in because they'll have wins over Oregon and USC, and that USC game becomes another.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Then you have a really fascinating game there. So I definitely want to watch this game, and I think Oregon should be very mindful of this game. And yeah, you do have to respect Kenneth. On top of that,
So, Robert, we didn't get to this one, and I guess the thing is oops. Let me grab a laser pointer here. Usually when there's like the numbers are kind of all even, I'll say, hey, which unit cracks first? You know, kind of one of these things, going back to the old Sesame Street thing. Do they have Sesame Street north of the 49th?
Yes,
Okay.
we did. Yes.
Okay. I mean, it's clear which one of these things doesn't belong. So I guess the
Yes.
inverse is, can Iowa's offense even hang in there? I just, go, please. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is kind of the thing, right? I mean, we saw just a couple weeks ago, I think, yeah, it was 2 weeks ago against Wisconsin. Wisconsin scored 7 points. That was it, right? Now, is Wisconsin's offense that much worse than Iowa's now? Probably not. I mean, yeah, they did win 30-something to nothing, but that's when you look back at that game, that was probably a function of a lot of defensive stuff in that game. So I'm not really. It's not like, oh, okay, Iowa's like an offensive powerhouse there against Wisconsin. That's not what happened in that game. I think roughly this game is going to look very similar to Oregon versus Wisconsin. Oregon was supposed to win that game by a lot more than this. And to be fair, this spread was roughly around the same spread as the Wisconsin spread too. So it was not near the Wisconsin spread, right? Sorry. Like this, what I meant to say was this spread after the Wisconsin game barely moved. Like I think it moved a point, maybe half a point. Like it was basically 6.5 going into the game, and it stayed there, right? So the bookmakers didn't seem to care that Oregon only put up, I think it was 21-7 or 14-7. I can't remember what it was specifically.
21-7. I think
21-7, yeah. So I mean, still a massive underperformance against the Wisconsin team.
The weather in that game was all. I mean, it was like a hurricane.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that probably had something to do with it too. But
and this is the thing, right? Like, look, on paper, this game should not be this close, right? Like, I mean, when you look at their offense being that poor, like, okay, yeah, if this was like, oh, okay, yeah, Iowa's got like a 10 on offense and they're home, okay, we could talk about that. But like, they don't. It's a -2, right? Like, yeah, defense is comparable, sure, but Oregon's offense is way better than Iowa's offense, right? I believe Oregon has had a bye week, right? They didn't play last week, right?
Correct.
Am I
They were
mistaken?
off. Both
Yeah,
these
so
teams
they
were off
have
last
had
week, I think.
both times are
Yeah.
off buckets. Yep.
So they have had some time to kind of figure this out and be like, hey, okay, what's wrong with the offense? And you can kind of trace back some of these nagging offensive issues. You can trace them back to the Penn State game. If you look at what Oregon did against Penn State, and then you kind of translate that to like what Northwestern and what UCLA did against Penn State, you're like, hey, you're kind of missing a couple points there, right? Like, I mean, you want to make the argument about the team imploding and all that. Okay, sure, but like they looked way better offensively against Penn State than Oregon did, and not just like a little bit, right? Like far better. So maybe Oregon's offense is not as good as we had thought, right? Now, again, that's a possibility. I'm not saying we're not writing them off yet. Oregon is still a favorite in this game. Are they going to win by 6, or could this be more of an Indiana margin? I don't know. Indiana did only win, as Iowa mentioned, as Isaiah mentioned. They only won by 5 here in Iowa, right? Now, at the same time, that was Indiana's first road game. But again, if you take away the name Iowa from it and you just put teams with the same stats together, Indiana wins by 30, right? Like that's what Indiana does this year. So I don't know. This is very weird to me. I've put a bet on Oregon, but like that's it. I'm not going to like just like a standard, maybe even a smaller unit on Oregon here. Nothing. I'm not going crazy on this game. It's not like I'm like, oh man, this is insane value, the -6. I think Oregon should win this game. They should cover this game, but we'll have to see. I don't know. Iowa's gotten a lot of hype in the last couple of weeks, including from the committee. They seem to like Iowa a lot more than the AP likes Iowa. Um, but I don't know. I can't. I can't get behind it. Now, if Iowa wins this game, yeah, sure, we could talk about that. I'll be very sad because Oregon lost this game. But if Iowa does actually manage to win this game, then yeah, then Iowa should be a top 15-ish team. But they did lose to Indiana. They lost to
Iowa State.
Iowa State.
Iowa State. Yeah. So, I mean, okay, Iowa State, Indiana. Of course, everybody apparently loses to Indiana. But Iowa State, that's kind of inexcusable, right? So it's not like this team is just kind of. If they had have beaten Iowa State, I'd be a bit more convinced here. And if they had beaten Penn State by a bit more, I'd be like, they only beat Penn State by I think 2 or 3,
Yeah.
right? So it's really hard for me to say, yeah, I believe in this Iowa team. I just based on what we've seen, like I get that they're 10-2 and not 10-2, they're only 2 losses in the Big Ten, and that's fine. But like I just can't get behind. I don't see this team as a threat. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this weekend I was wrong about that. But I just can't shake the feeling that this team is just not. It's just not it. That's my take on it.
I mean, I know what the formula for Iowa winning this game is, and it's the same formula that they drug Indiana into. It was you're not going to pass the ball. Mm-hmm. You're just going to have to run the ball here against the Iowa defense, and Indiana could not do it. And that's a good, I mean, we know how good that run game is normally for Indiana. They could not move the ball. They had Mendoza frustrated. They had the passing game. So I think the question for Oregon is, can you win this game if this becomes a slot fest?
I mean, in the mud, right?
Right. That Indiana-Iowa game finished 20-15. Mm-hmm. Can Oregon win this game 20-15 on the road in Canada? I think that's the question.
That's exactly right. And a couple things. I'm just using the Indiana game as a really good analog. Iowa doesn't like unless you're just like a bad passing team. When I watch Iowa's defense, with all respect, they just keep you from getting yards. It's not like they pick you off 3 times. If you're like right, it's like you have nowhere to go with the ball. You wind up like running out of bounds a lot.
It's like exactly what you think of when you think of Big Ten football, right? It's just we're going to muck the game up. We're going to stop you on the line. We're going to frustrate you into trying to throw against our secondary. And I think we've covered before with Oregon. It's like, what is their passing game? Because I haven't really seen anything against the better teams they play to say that this is necessarily a passing game that I want to trust against a really good defense. So again, like I said, I think the real question of this game is if this is 17-16 in the fourth quarter, do you feel good if you're Oregon?
well, no. But let me kind of finish that other point. Drake Lindsay threw 3 turnovers, and that's again going back to something that I'm still kind of the red ass about. That game went over. I just don't see Dante Moore throwing 3. I see him just like eating the ball a lot and running out of bounds for like no gain. And the only path I think that this even gets close to going over is just a lot of turnovers. You just kind of at this point say, okay, yeah, the white return guy for Iowa is going to get a touchdown. Fine, great, we'll do one of those. But I just don't see any path how it goes over unless Dante Moore just loses his mind.
It's going to be a lot of running the ball too, because if you look at Iowa's offense, it's run game, and you look at what Gronowski does really well. It's that he's mobile and that he's good at running.
Yeah. I really like the under here. Does that?
I kind of do it as well.
Yeah, 43 seems like way too high. Usually,
yeah, it just feels like ball control all over it.
Yeah, I mean, just the Iowa way on offense too is just they get to third down and then they just drive you nuts by converting by like a half a yard, and they suck the clock too. So, all right, the other one we wanted that we talked about earlier this week that we want your opinion on is, I'm just not sure. Am I missing something here? I guess if I just start with, look, Georgia seems to be a getting away with it team. I don't know if you're going to get away with it by 2 scores on the road where all the cowbells are ringing. That just, like, without breaking down the numbers, it just doesn't seem right. And looking at the numbers, like, we've been saying for weeks, over a month, Mississippi State has a legit defense here. And I think Mississippi State keeps it close. So unless there's really something dumb that happens at the end, I think Mississippi State covers this, right?
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's just a tough team to figure out because it's like I can't figure out if they. I don't think they're a legitimate title contender. They're obviously a playoff contender, but I haven't seen anything from them to go like, yeah, this is your classic Kirby Smart, gonna be in there until the semifinals kind of Georgia team, and yet number 5 in the poll, number 5 in the playoff committee rankings, and it's like I just don't know if they've done anything, if they've really done what they need to do to be that highly hyped. Like I'm not that impressed with Tennessee, so I don't really. I mean, winning at Knoxville is always impressive, but they always seem to win against Tennessee anyway. And they needed overtime. They needed to come back in overtime. They always lose to Alabama, so that's pretty stock standard. Um, they did have the comeback against Ole Miss. Like, you know what? What what is the way to make money on this Georgia team? It's to bet against them first half and then bet on them to win the game. That's if you look at all of their games this season, basically all of them they are trailing at halftime, and then they come back to win, except for the Alabama game, except for the Florida game, which is how you knew Florida was not going to win that game because they weren't winning at halftime. Um, so it's like that's great that you're a resilient team. Obviously, you're a very well coached team with Kirby. But how many times can you get away with that? How many times can you get away with going into the half down and then just coming back? That's gonna bite you eventually. And it's Georgia, right? This is not the Lane Kiffin offense. Gunnar Stockton's not a bad quarterback, but he's not somebody I want down 7-10 at halftime every single week. And so I'm not going to bet this game because at least I'm not going to bet the full game. I'm tempted to continue with the first half fade and then see where we're at halftime with this. But this is an underrated, tough place to play when they're going, when the cowbells are going. And this Mississippi State team is vastly improved. Yeah. From what they were last year. I would be careful with this.
It's not shown in the record too, which makes it an even better spot. And I think it's kind of the
it's not. It's not. But yet you watch Mississippi State, you can just tell. Like even if they're not going to win the game, you can tell they're just a much better team, and they're a completely viable team. So does Georgia win this game? Probably. Would I want to give them 9 points full game? I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But again, I think the play is again you fade them in the first half until they give you a reason not to.
Yeah, that's a good call, Robert. Georgia has only beaten 2 Power 4 teams by more than 1 score, and that would be Kentucky at Georgia, and then at Auburn, which. Whether they beat them by 2 scores, there depends on kind of which angle you had of the video review and who actually was making that call. I consider Mississippi State now. Again, it doesn't show in the one loss record, but these are numbers that are far superior to that of Auburn and Kentucky. I just don't know if I have the stones to do it, but it just, again, does this line stink?
If I had to bet on this game, I'd probably bet Mississippi State. I think that's very fair, right? Like, it's crazy, but I think that's the bet. I can't... Like, the other thing I think you have to keep thinking of is the fact that Georgia next week is playing Texas. So, like, is there a bit of look ahead there? Didn't they either lose or almost lose a game before Texas last year?
Oh, I don't remember that.
Let me look.
Because I remember last year, people were like, Georgia's going to lose this game, and I'm like, no, Georgia's going to win this game outright, and they just crushed Texas. But I remember correctly, they looked bad the week before.
Before they played Texas, actually, they played Mississippi State. They won 41-31.
Yeah, 31. And that number should stand out as like that doesn't make sense from last year. So this is the thing. I mean, it's literally the spread of this game, basically 9-10. I don't know. This line also stinks. I think the Iowa Oregon line stinks a bit less than this one. This one is like something's clearly wrong. But like, watch next week. Georgia's going to be -2, -2.5 against Texas, right? And like that's what that line's going to be. And that's going to be the play. Like I don't think even if Georgia loses this game, I don't think they're not gonna make Texas the favorite over Georgia. That'd be crazy. So I don't
It
know.
it looks like the models agree with my other gut on this when I look at these lines is 57 and a half.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
true.
That feels a bit generous.
Yep. Yeah, we got 49, 46, and 49 on the totals there. Um, yeah, actually, the BuckMetrics model has Mississippi State winning.
I mean, that just feels. I think that 57 and a half. That feels like that's underrating the Mississippi State
Defense,
defense
exactly.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
That's intriguing. I might take a note of that.
Yeah, and you know what? Auburn's defense is better than Mississippi State, but boy, Georgia struggled against that defense too. So that's a good call out by you. So okay, interesting. I know this is going to end. This is going to be in the fourth quarter. I'm going to be regretting not playing the stink line. So looking forward to that regret already. College football, everybody, yay! All right, couple of Friday night games. Big one in the American, Tulane at Memphis. Memphis given 6.5 at home. Robert Robert's model and the BuckMetrics model both have Memphis covering by a little bit here. The Athena model, not so much. You know, Tulane, they looked last week like the coach kind of was maybe had been in talks with some bigger programs. I'll just put it that way. Although what's concerning here is this is not really a good defense for an American team for Tulane with a excuse me a power rating of 0.9, let alone a John Summerall defense, which really should be the identity of the team here. Really bad pass defense here for Tulane. This is not going to get it done against a functional Memphis offense here. I believe in Summerall a lot more than Memphis, or than Silverfield in terms of the coaches here. This is a tough one for me. I'm kind of the mind that maybe Tulane just it doesn't feel like Tulane plus is the play as much as maybe just a stab at Tulane on the money line. Because either they're just undervalued to the point where you can capitalize on that, or it's just not going to happen. And Memphis is just that much better. And I guess the basis that is I don't even know straight up who I'd take if it was just coin flip time. Plus minus 110 on each side. So that kind of says to me that Tulane might be the money line play here. What do you think, Isaiah?
I mean, honestly, I still don't entirely know if I know who either of these teams are at this point in the season. It's a really interesting game from the perspective of like I just want to learn more about what these teams are because I think if we look at Memphis, right? They beat Arkansas. Okay, I mean you beat an SEC team. That's something. And you got the big win over South Florida what 2 weeks ago. Um, so you've got some wins on your schedule
Yes.
here.
You left out a game, but go on.
I'm gonna pretend that one didn't exist.
Okay, fair.
Um,
We all have one of those.
you did not lose to Trent Dilfer.
True. Okay, very fair.
Um, so yeah, there's your question mark on them. And then like Tulane, what has Tulane done? You beat Northwestern at the time. That didn't feel like much. Now Northwestern's playing a little bit better now. So I don't know. Maybe you beat Duke. Okay, not a bad win. Um, and then since then, it's kind of been like, okay, well, who have you played? Tulsa, Army, got spanked by UTSA. So it's like both of these teams have like a couple wins where it's like, okay, there's something here, and then you've got a loss where it's like, oh, what happened there?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't entirely just I like I certainly don't have a side on this game. I I understand your logic where you're thinking it's like either it feels like either Tulane just wins this game or they get blown out. Um, but I don't usually like to bet on games like that. So I'm not going to take a side on this one. But this is definitely one that I'm keeping in the back of my head, like from the G5 games, especially like when we get to bowls and we're looking at like, oh, what bowl is Memphis in? What bowl is Tulane in? Like, is there some value on either one of those? This is probably one of those games where I'm going to be like, okay, I learned a little bit more about these teams.
Yeah, fair. And the thing is, Tulane has two losses, right? To Ole Miss and UTSA.
Yes, Ole
So
Miss.
interestingly,
And
I don't think they're in that bad of a spot for the American conference title game if they can win this, because you'll have a tiebreaker over Memphis. When you get to these tiebreakers, like the dumb losses hurt you less because you're not going to be heads up, head to head against them. So I don't think UTSA's a threat to make it. So I don't know, Robert. Are you buying my Tulane money line as maybe like the value here?
Yeah, I actually kind of do like. Actually, no, sorry, no, I like Memphis here actually. No,
Really?
um, yeah, I mean, my model has them
Yeah. Okay.
as
Fair.
pretty clear favorites, about 8. I don't think this isn't much of a play, right? 8, 6.5. I'm not touching that. But no, the thing is, I think there's a lot that's kind of been shown here for Memphis. Again, that loss to UAB is really hurting them, but they were really good against USF. That I think we can kind of excuse that loss to UAB now, and I think that UAB loss is kind of still penciled into people's mind. That's probably the reason why they're not ranked by the committee. But Tulane has not looked particularly great. So yeah, I'm kind of on Memphis here. If I had to place a bet here, I think Memphis, but I'm just gonna punt this one. I'm not touching this. It's way too close to my line to see any value. But if I had it closer, like the Athena model, I maybe would take a shot at Tulane if this got to 7. But at this point, my play's got to be Memphis.
Okay.
it is nice that you're getting it under the 7. I will say, like if you are more confident in what Memphis is, having it under the 7 is nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, I guess I see this as one of those Miami games with Tulane, where you've got
Yeah.
the inverse bell curve or whatever we called it, the binomial look for the
Yeah.
mode. All right, I've got a pretty. I'm going to make what I think is a pretty convincing argument here, and I'm going to start with this Northwestern's defense. When I look at these Northwestern defensive metrics, they look an awfully lot like this other team that's hosting them this week. And I know this USC team pretty well, and if I've never seen them practice under Lincoln Riley, which I think you're not supposed to. Um, but if I just kind of think, what kind of a defense would USC just absolutely crush? It would be a team that plays defense like USC plays. And lo and behold, I have basically. Oh, my wife's home. Let the dogs out real quick here. Excuse me, folks. I've got a team that, from a metric standpoint, looks an awfully lot like the USC defense here. I just think this number is way too low. You've got, I mean, right here, look at these power ratings that are pretty much exactly the same between the two. There's actually a point in favor of USC. You know, Athena's got it by 26. My model by 27, and of course Robert runs it with his model and has it as a touchdown game. Thank you very much. I just think this is a 3-score plus game, and I think really just when there's this much of a variance, like I said, especially at home, I really like scripted Lincoln Riley over rest of the game Lincoln Riley. So I think the first half play here is solid unless they just give you an FU number of like 10. But even then, it's probably worthwhile. I'll start with you on this one, Robert. Just tear apart my thesis.
I will say that, and even with the 18, well, my model clearly doesn't believe in USC's offense that much. It's kind of like, okay, they're good on offense. I'm not saying they're not good on offense, but like, my model I think believes a bit more in Northwestern's defense. Northwestern did keep it within 7 against Nebraska, and Nebraska and USC. I mean, okay, yeah, USC won, but Nebraska did lose their quarterback, so call it close. So I'd say that, like, functionally, if you're translating that, that's what, call it 10 points. maybe anywhere from 7 to 10 points of kind of advantage USC on that. Now, okay, they are traveling to USC. I just kind of think because I got this, I did actually put a little on Northwestern plus 14.5 here.
Really?
I just kind of think it's
Wow.
it's just a little too many points here. I think for me, again, USC is going to win this game, but like Northwestern kept it close against a good Nebraska team. Like I don't think this is just a play on Northwestern's defense being good. This is not a play on Northwestern's offense. Like if it's like if USC gets up like 21, yeah, okay, game's over. They're gonna cover. Like this is Northwestern's not gonna launch some sort of insane comeback. But if Northwestern can hold them on defense, then yeah, they can make this game somewhat competitive, right? I mean, my model only has it a touchdown. I kind of think there's some scenarios where it's like 7, 10, maybe 14, but like that 14 and a half, 15 point hook that like that extra point and a half, like half point hook, that's kind of nice. I kind of think they have a decent shot of covering that. I think that number is probably roughly where it is, and yeah, I mean, my model likes Northwestern's defense. It's kind of liked them for a few weeks now. It made a good call against them when they played Nebraska. I kind of think 14 and slash 15 here, 14 and a half or 15 is just too many. I think.
Yeah, let me poke some holes in I guess your what I think is going with your model. I think your model is looking at last week, and that was by far USC's worst game offensively, particularly passing. And as I've pointed out to my own chagrin many times, USC has the pleasure of playing literally the top three passing defenses in their last 5 games of the season. I just Northwestern has a very nice passing defense here, but Nebraska's is literally like Iowa and Oregon level. Just like you're not getting it done, you're not moving it, and I think that difference in level between good and exceptional is something that a passing offense like USC can exploit. So I'm going to throw it to the jury, Isaiah, on this one. You can just tell me that I'm right and Robert's model's wrong, or not.
This is. I would certainly feel. I would really feel like this screams trap game if this was in Chicago. I think that USC being at home probably helps. It is one of those sneaky Friday night games. So I think Friday night West Coast game. I think that actually probably benefits USC here because they didn't have to travel.
Maybe, but Northwestern was off last week, so that's almost and USC traveled, so it's kind of a draw.
That's true. Northwestern's tricky to figure out. They're playing better football. They're playing. I mean, I can go right ahead and say I was wrong about this team. The preseason, I didn't see anything to suggest that this team is going to win more than 2 or 3 games, and they've played better. But I think to your point, Buck, at what the model might be picking up when it's a little bit high on Northwestern is let's look at their games before the Nebraska game, which let's not discount it because that's a really good performance by Northwestern. Before that, Purdue, Penn State, Louisiana Monroe, UCLA. And that was UCLA before they decided to start trying. So, like, I do think that there's a little bit I'd be a little bit hesitant to say that Northwestern's ready to take the step up to compete with a team like USC on the road. But then you look at the Nebraska game. They only lost by 7 in a game where Preston Stone threw 2 picks. I don't trust USC to get 2 turnovers on this team. Like, that's just not really what USC does. But I do like that Lincoln Riley has actually shown me that he's willing to run the ball. I think that's important because Northwestern's going to want to, again, if Northwestern's going to win a game, it's going to be a defensive, running the ball, Big Ten style game. So, can USC come out, dictate the tempo, get past, like, it almost feels like there's it's like a hump, right? With this game, it's like if they can get past that 7 to 10 point margin early, then then it's like, okay, yeah, we got this one. This one's good. But like, okay, you get to the third quarter, it's still a 7-point game. You get to the third quarter, it's still a low scoring game. Like, that's when you start to wonder, like, okay, is Northwestern, going to hang around and cover this number? 15 is a tricky number because you're not, like, if it was 13 and a half, I'd go with USC here. If I could play this game, I would just stay away from it. I'm not allowed to play it anyway. I I kind of lean towards USC covering the number, but I don't feel super strong on it. I just don't know if Northwestern showed me enough yet to keep a game like that. And that doesn't mean that Northwestern's bad, right? Like I don't want to say like, oh, Northwestern loses this game by 17, 18. That means they're bad again. Like that's not true, right? They're also at 5 wins.
Mm-hmm.
Like they need one more to get to a bowl that nobody
No.
had them make. But
we all crapped on them
the
in the preview, by the way.
no, yeah, like I said, I want to give Northwestern all the credit because I will always admit when I'm wrong on a team. I was very wrong on this team. One more win, you get to go bowling. You get Michigan, who decided to almost lose to my Purdue team last year or week at home. You got Minnesota. I think we've already poked plenty of holes in them, and then you get the rivalry game against Illinois. Like there's a lot for this Northwestern team to play for still. So I don't think they're going to lay down and die here. But I do think they're pretty clearly outmatched.
You mentioned two things that I didn't think about, but that make me even more confident in that, at least as far as my metrics are concerned, Northwestern is probably not as good as what we're seeing here. And that is like they caught a dying team literally as they died in Penn State. Pretty much their worst effort of the year. And that's saying a lot for Penn State. Getting UCLA right before they became the new CLA Bruins, if you will. And I think that their metrics are getting a bump from how much better UCLA's been since they promoted the New Heisel, or as you put it so eloquently, started to try. I think that they're, that actually makes it, in all respect to you guys, we're here to disagree, but you kind of prompted something that makes me think that my metrics actually probably have Northwestern a little bit overrated here, if anything. They're not as good as the numbers. Now, Robert and I, we're all coalescing around here, so I think that really becomes a matter more of like how good is their defense, because that's really where the disagreement is here. We're off by 2 scores here for USC, so we will throw it out there for the listeners, and they can decide for themselves. So split jury on this one. I guess we're coming back without being able to render a verdict unless this is a civil case, then, right?
Yeah, but, I mean, Northwestern definitely a team to watch in the last couple of weeks, so especially that Michigan and that Minnesota game. I'm really interested to see what Northwestern can do to muck those games up. Those will be at Wrigley Field as well,
that's right.
not at the Evanston Field.
Yeah, so they're done with that for good, right?
Yes, they will have the new stadium. It looks really nice, actually.
Cool. All right. Help me out. Am I just missing something here? Now, granted, I'm not the most objective person about this game. Someone who's on Southern Miss to be over, and this might win that bet. I've just not been tracking my preseason plays as closely, but I think this might actually make that a win. Just to put it nicely, I'm not a Butch Jones fan. I'm really not a fan of what he's done to Jalen Rayner. We can just say chronic bum list member for a couple years now, Jalen Rayner. I just don't think this is close now, unless Jonesboro's, excuse me, I can't even say it without coughing because it's so absurd. Unless there's some crazy home field advantage here for Arkansas State, I just don't think it's. I don't think it's close. I mean, good coach, good QB against bad coach, bad QB. All the metrics favor Southern Miss here. All the intangibles. Athena's got this a 16-point game. My model has a 13, and again, Robert's model just wants to hold up the part. I don't know if this is like secret tariff revenge or what, but it says nope, not a play here. So I really like Southern Miss here. I just 2 totally different teams. So Robert, I'll ask you: Are you agreeing with your model on this one? It being a 1-score game?
No, I'm not touching this. I will say though that my model has been a bit low, weirdly low on Southern Miss. I think that's a bit weird to me, because who they play last week, Louisiana. It liked Louisiana against them, and they got crushed by Southern Miss. So the model's been kind of a bit up and down in that. I'm not trusting it Southern Miss stuff. That number looks right though, but the numbers you have 30-14, 30-17, that seems more right. But what I will point out is that that 5.5, that feels a little bit like a trap line, kind of like the Oregon versus Iowa game, right? That feels like a little bit of a trap. So I don't know, but then you can say the same thing about the when Southern Miss played Louisiana, right? Just a few weeks ago, right? And they crushed that line. So what's more likely that they have that the books have no idea how to price Sunbelt schools? Yeah, I think that's probably more accurate. Um, so I mean, technically, even I do have them covering and winning, but um, yeah, it's not a play on my end, but I'm just gonna look. There's something weird with Southern Miss in the model. There's a couple of teams it's kind of under, like Southern Miss is one, Texas A&M is another one
Mm.
where it kind of seems a bit low on them. You may look under the hood on for most of them. For the vast majority of the teams, I think it's working perfectly fine. Maybe there's some like hidden thread there between Southern Miss and Texas A&M where it doesn't like how they play the game or something. I'll have to take a look at that and see.
You know what? Just before Isaiah jumps in, that reminds me. 30-second detour here. One of these guys, I want to give him credit. I can't remember who it is on Twitter. He has all these really good graphics. A lot of them are kind of stuff we talk about. And he had Florida State as one of the unluckiest teams this year. And I just want to say, yeah, Gus got your model too, bro. It's not bad luck. It's just it's just distribution. So, yeah, just side note on that. So, Isaiah, I'm making a note here. So, Robert's saying that Arkansas State's home field is like Kinnick. Are you agreeing with that? No, I'm just putting words in his mouth. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know much about their home field. Um, they did muck up a game with Iowa State this year, I guess.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
fair.
But yeah, I think there's a little bit too much optimism on this Arkansas State team because like I've seen this game framed as like, oh, Arkansas State they're figuring it out. They've really kind of figured it out. But then I look back at their stretch of figuring it out, and it's Texas State.
Yes, who's having a bad
Okay,
season. I think they have one
yep,
conference win.
yeah, South Alabama,
Yeah,
Georgia Southern,
Clay Helton, everybody.
like
Yeah, okay.
who would have thought their best win in the past month would have been Troy?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I feel like there's a little bit too much optimism on like the okay, Arkansas State has figured this thing out. None of these games have been like that particularly. Like, they only beat South Alabama by one. They only beat Texas State by one. They beat Georgia Southern by 10. Like again, the Troy result is given that Troy's a much better team than we kind of pegged them for in the preseason. That's a solid win for them. But I'm not here to trust them here. I think that Southern Miss is just the better team here. I unless I'm missing like I mean I like betting Sunbelt games, but I don't know if I'd be like this is just a place that I'm terrified to play. So it feels like 5.5 really should be something that Southern Miss like if Southern Miss is a team that you think is legitimate, they should be able to cover that. I mean, you should look at the stats too, like the offense versus even if you just look at like um, the team apex.
Yeah, just like take your pick.
57.
Jalen Rayner. There you go, everybody. Um,
That's brutal. Yeah, I don't understand. And the other thing too, sometimes when I look at these games and I just want to like reinforce my gut of that seems wrong. I go to like the websites where the people who write like 200 predictions per week and they don't ever go into actual depth or analysis. And I just see who are they all telling? Who are they telling Joe Casual to
mhm.
bet? I have seen pick after pick after pick after pick to take Arkansas State to cover here. And usually when that happens for an underdog, the favorite wins pretty handily. So,
Fair.
yeah, my gut tells me that this is Southern Miss.
Yeah. Not to poo-poo your method. I don't say your process is exactly how a grown-up adult who's smart would do it in terms of their figuring out, and you did the exactly right thing. Well, let's see who they figured it out against allegedly, right? Much more extensive than my research would be. Their head coach is Butch Jones. They're never going to figure anything out. So I think it's that simple. All right, so we feels like we're all kind of think Arkansas State's a good play here.
No,
Or
Southern
Southern,
Miss.
Southern, jeez, man alive.
Yeah.
Okay, I just went Butch Jones myself,
Did you
but
Southern
talk,
Miss.
it's
yourself
Southern
into the
Miss.
Butch Jones?
Yes. Okay. You're welcome, everybody. You know, Washington at Wisconsin. Okay, first of all, I've got this wrong. Washington is giving 11. Please pardon the typo there. That is unforgivable.
They're
You're not,
playing they're
you're
playing
not taking
2018. They're playing 2018
Yes,
Wisconsin.
yes.
you're not taking you're not taking Wisconsin on the alternate
This
line.
is no. This is yeah. This is more like Alex Hornibrook against Jimmy Lake. Kind of that vintage of Wisconsin and Washington. Washington given 11.5 at Wisconsin. So, I just, kind of my headline reaction is like, no, Washington's way better than this. And lo and behold, Athena actually has this a 9-point game. Robert has this a 17-point game, and BuckMetrics model has it 15. So we're kind of over the place. It's not enough to be a play. I just, I don't know if. Okay, let's go to the first number here. Big surprise, everybody. Damon Williams is like 5 times the quarterback of Billy Edwards and his overmatched backup, who apparently was the only thing that was holding back San Diego State last year. Huge advantage there in the passing game. And by the way, Washington runs it better too. More explosive. Washington much better in pass defense. The one thing Wisconsin does decently well is run defense. I think that's why we saw Oregon limited to 21 in the monsoon. But I can't see it. I mean, these are two teams in totally different kind of stages. Namely, one's ascending and one's, they're not letting it die, apparently, for lack of funds. I don't know. That sounds like some kind of NHS kind of weird thing where you can't die because you don't have the money. I don't know. Look, I hate to go against my numbers here, or my models are split, but I just think Robert's model's got it better in terms of just, this feels like closer to a 3-score game. What do you think, Robert?
Yeah, I will offer kind of a theory on this. I think, and we've seen this a couple of times now. I'll draw back attention to the Washington versus Rutgers game where Washington absolutely clubbed them. And then yet, Washington struggled a lot against Michigan and a lot against Ohio State. But then they also just crushed Illinois. I think Washington is like the ultimate, like, cutoff between the tiers team. Everybody below them they crush, with the exception of Colorado State for some reason. And everybody above them they struggle against. And it's like, oh, okay, Ohio State's a good team. Okay, we're going to struggle against them. Oh, Michigan's a good team. Okay, we're going to struggle against them, right? I think when they play Oregon, I think I'd be very worried about them. But I think they are built to just crush bad teams. And I think that's kind of the problem. Now, is that a Jeb Fish kind of thing? I don't know. Again, he was building this basically from scratch starting last year. So this is kind of year 1.5-ish, right? Like this was rough. This was very, very rough. I don't blame him for what this what this Washington team is. But that's what it is, right? And the fact is, they're still up there in the national championship conversation, like in the CFP conversation. They are not like, this is not a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. I'm on them on this. I'm going to take the minus 11.5. I think that the reason for this line is because you saw Wisconsin do things against Oregon, and I think because you've seen Washington kind of really, really struggle against Ohio State and Michigan. I think people are like, oh, maybe Washington's not that good. But this is kind of where it's going to go back and forth. It's going to be like, oh, Washington's not that good because they did bad against Michigan, or they did bad against Ohio State. Oh, they crushed Rutgers. Maybe they're going to be competitive against Michigan. Oh, no, they're not, right? So I think the pendulum's about to swing back the other way, and they're going to probably crush Wisconsin.
Maybe the other thing, too, is Washington, that game at Maryland maybe scares you a little bit because they're on the road. And maybe they're not at that point where they can be good on the road. But God, I start with the passing. I mean, there's such a huge difference in the passing game here that I don't know. I don't know how Wisconsin really keeps it close unless just Damon Williams just implodes on the road, right, Isaiah?
I'm not worried about the road here. I think if you look at this line, somebody could look at this line and say, oh, it's a road game, and there's that. I love Washington here. I'm with Robert. I don't think this is close, and it's not just a mismatch with how good Williams is with how good this Washington team can be when they're playing teams that they're just significantly better than. It is hard to capture into words just how dead this Wisconsin team is. Do you know what it takes to lose at home 37-0 to Iowa? I mean, there is nothing here, and um, the worst part about it is I look at this game. This is a kind of game where you start to get anti-home field
Yep.
advantage. These fans are, I mean, these fans are done. I don't even know if there will be people there. Honestly, I was at, excuse me, I was at Camp Randall for the Middle Tennessee game, which they won 42-10, but it was 14-10 at halftime, and I have never heard boos that loudly in Camp Randall before. And now you've got the Wisconsin administration putting out their letters of confidence. But from what I've heard from Wisconsin people is it's not that's just getting us to the end of the season and then Fickle's. They expect Fickle to be back next year. So what are you playing? So what are you playing for? This program's dead right now. It's not coming back. And I just either there's not going to be fans here to make this intimidating for Washington.
Yes.
Or there's going to be fans here and they almost help Washington.
Yep. Yeah.
So yeah, I just and this backup quarterback he's really bad, man.
Yes.
There's just nothing to like here. Washington doesn't have to lean on a run game here, which is the one thing you mentioned that Wisconsin can kind of muck up games if you can keep it on the ground for a little bit. But no, I honestly think this game is over at halftime.
Yeah. All right, so 3 of us aligned on that one too. Kind of a I want to believe here game, and the line is giving me reason to believe here. I kind of did I guess to go high school here. I kind of did a promposal to Wisconsin to Wake Forest to beat Florida State, and I was rejected. So now I'm kind of a little gun shy here, but I want to believe in Wake Forest, and I kind of feel dumb saying about that team that has Robbie Ashford at quarterback. But look, all credit to Virginia, undefeated in ACC play. I think their last 4 games that they've won are like by a cumulative 7 points or something ridiculous by that. Don't know if this is can they keep getting away with it. Don't know if this is a stink line. If I just look at these metrics here, they're not that far out of balance. What's really interesting too is even though these defensive Apex Plus and the GGAB Plus is about the same between the two, once you put that into points in terms of who you've played, the best unit on by far here is Wake Forest. Can they get Virginia's offense to crack somewhat to the extent that Wake actually can make a game of it? Again, I don't want to back Robbie Ashford. I guess I don't know if this is a play. Now let's just look here. Athena's got it a 5-point game. Robert's got it a 3-point game, and the BuckMetrics model has it a 5-point game. I feel a lot better if this is north of 7, so maybe just wait until Saturday feels like maybe the play here. What do you think, Isaiah? If it's a play at all.
Yeah, I think if I could get 7 on this, I'd feel a lot more comfortable. Now, like you mentioned, Virginia's kind of been flying a little close to this, and they did win at Cal by 10 last week, but then it was 1-point win against UNC, a bad UNC team, 2-point win against a horrible Washington State team, 3-point win in overtime against Louisville, good win, but 3-point win. It just feels a little bit like this is a good team. I don't want to take away anything from this Virginia team. They absolutely have earned their path to the ACC championship game here. But it does feel a little bit unsustainable. On the other side, even with that Florida State loss, and I was also on Wake Forest to cover that one, so I misread that one badly as well. But this Wake Forest teams, they're scrappy. They're underrated. Also some close games, but like one win. It's 1 point, but a win over SMU. That's a good win. They should have beat Georgia Tech, but ACC officials don't know the rules to football, so they didn't beat Georgia Tech. But they should have. This is I think people still want to look at this team and say, "Oh, it's Wake Forest," but this is a good Wake Forest team. So yeah, I think if you could get this, I think if we could get this to 7, I'd feel pretty good about taking a shot on Wake Forest. I don't think I'm actually going to play it even if it does go to 7, but I think that's kind of where the move is. Um, I also just look at Virginia as like, is Virginia going to run the table? Because that NC State game doesn't count. Um, they finish with they got Wake Forest and they go to at Duke and then they finish with the ghost of Virginia Tech. So it's like,
Yeah, that Duke game stuff.
boy, I mean, yeah, it's like that. And is there a look ahead to that Duke game?
There you go.
Duke is not Duke, which beat mighty ACC Clemson. If you ask ESPN, that hasn't caught up yet to Clemson. I don't know. It's a really interesting game. I definitely want to see where this one ends up. But good for Wake Forest. I mean, I with my family living in Winston Salem now, I've watched some Wake Forest football, and it's usually not very fun. So good for Wake Forest.
Yeah, and as you talk through it, and it kind of lines up here, this looks like a pretty solid underplay too, with all three models being under by a decent margin here.
Yeah. Both of these offenses have been a little bit underwhelming against the better competition lately. Like again, it's like 13 points against SMU for Wake Forest, and then 7 against Florida State. Virginia lately is 17-16 against UNC against that UNC defense. I definitely think, or 22 points against that Washington State defense. Yeah, I think an underplay could work here.
What do you think, Robert?
Is it possible that like Wake Forest was like looking ahead to the Virginia team and like looking past Florida State? I mean, like Virginia is one of the top teams in the conference. Florida State is not, right? Is it possible? No, I mean that's crazy, but I mean that result seemed a little out of just a bit of a weird result, right? We talk about this Wake Forest defense, and it is a good defense comparatively, and they just got crushed. And we talk about how Florida State is not good, and they crushed them. So I honestly don't know about this one. I really want to, like, I have this as Virginia -3. I kind of, like, just, like, straight up, I don't believe Virginia. Like, I get that right now for this week they have to be in all of the, like, whenever you do the graphic of, like, oh, here's the CFP, they have to be in it. Okay, fine. But, like, do we actually believe they will get there? Do you, like, if you, like, what is their odds right now to make the CFP? It's got to be like 3-1, 4-1. Like, there's no way they're the favorites to actually make the CFP, right? Like, I can't see them making the CFP as ACC champions. I think something's going to happen and they won't be, right? But I don't know. This Virginia team has been very, very rough from beating UNC by 1, basically almost losing that game, literally inches away from losing that game on the 2-point conversion, needing a pick 6 to cover against Cal. I believe that one was at home as well. Like, it's not been good. It has not been good, and yet this is supposed to be the ACC champion. Wake Forest, yeah, they had a really rough week last week, but maybe they can come back this week and shut down Virginia. Like, it's so weird to think of this Virginia team and it's ranked where they are, and like that's basically just because they beat Florida State and that's it, and Florida State's not good. Because, like, okay, what's their best win now? Florida State and Cal, and that's it?
Louisville.
Like, Louisville, okay, that's right, they did beat Louisville. But, like, okay, but Louisville's also probably not that good either, right? So, it feels so weird having them ranked here and having them be the ACC, like, presumptive, I guess. Or, I guess, kind of, like, penciled in ACC champion for Virginia. It seems crazy. It just seems not... It seems like something is not. This is not. It would be crazy for me to see this. Like, again, a team that lost to NC State, almost lost to UNC. It just feels very weird for this to be the presumptive ACC champion.
It does feel like it's a product where we go back every year and we just realize just how bad the ACC is now.
Yeah.
Like, and again, I don't want to say that Virginia's a bad team because they're not a bad team. Like this, again, if they make it to Charlotte, then they've earned that. I would say I think Georgia Tech is a much, much better team. that is assuming that Georgia Tech doesn't get their quarterback killed because the only thing they do is have him run. Um, but um, I just it just feels like I mean let's say Virginia wins the ACC. Let's say they beat Georgia Tech in the ACC championship game and they win the league and they go to the CFP. What line does somebody have to
No,
give you in that first round game? I don't think there is
no,
one. I think you could give me Virginia as a 28-point underdog, and I would bet the favorite.
because they'd probably be like the 11th seed above just the G5 team, right? So that means you're playing the 6th seed.
So you're playing like an Ole
Yeah.
Miss or in Oregon, maybe
No.
if Oregon ends up getting it.
It just, it's just,
There's just
yeah.
not a
I
line
can't.
that you can
No,
give me.
no, I couldn't. You're way ahead of me. I was just gonna say, next week, how many points would you need? And this is not the crap on Virginia segment, although it kind of feels like it. How many points would you need to bet on Virginia at Duke next week?
I want to see because Virginia will be favored.
Really?
Um, I think so. I think they'll be narrowly favored because I think, um, assuming that they don't do something
Okay.
stupid
Yeah.
here, let's say they win this
Mm-hmm.
game. I think Virginia will be favored just by the nature of the books wanting the casual better to say, oh, Virginia's undefeated in the ACC. Virginia's going to the ACC championship game, and that's when you go and you put it all on Duke.
Yeah, I would need at least 7.5, and I probably wouldn't actually be enticed to bet until it got to like 10.5 to bet on
Yeah.
Virginia. What about you, Robert?
You mean Wake Forest, right?
No, Virginia next
Hypothetical
week
game for
at
next week.
Duke.
Oh, oh yeah, for sure. No, yeah, it would be. Yeah, I'd probably need at least 7.5 for that.
I would agree.
I like Duke. My model likes Duke too. Um, so yeah, this kind of magical run here thing is gonna end. I don't see this. It's not gonna like. There's no way. It's just okay. You beat Louisville, fine, and you beat Florida State, but then you barely beat Cal and UNC, arguably the two worst ACC teams. So no.
Yeah, I mean, Buck, this is not the Duke segment. It's supposed to be Wake Forest from Virginia. We had that little conversation about how we're just going to crown Duke as this year's Washington, where they just really find stupid
Yep.
ways to not win games, but eventually that knocks itself out. So yeah, I think dying to see what that line will be next week because I think a lot of casuals are going to go straight for Virginia.
Yep. Yeah. Good point. We'll keep an eye out for that. I think this is the last one here. Let me see. Nope. Two more. All right. Not quite the headline game that it usually would be, and this is kind of a what do I make of this? LSU, coached by I believe Frank Wilson, I believe is the interim running backs coach at Alabama. This is another one where my headline reaction is there's just no way it's only 11.5. I know that LSU, typically plays Alabama tough. But these just seemed like teams on two different trajectories. And then I remembered, LSU is just stubbornly. I think Robert, they're in both of our top 20s, right?
Yeah, I LSU is randomly up there. I don't know why it is. I think even after getting crushed by Texas A&M, the model still just loves this LSU team. I have, my model goes as far as to have LSU favored in this game, which is just kind of crazy. Now, could you make an argument that they fire Brian Kelly, the team responds positively, and this team was actually good the entire time, and it was Brian Kelly keeping them down? Yeah, I can actually kind of see that. That actually does make some sense. That makes a little bit of sense in my opinion. Um, I don't know if I have LSU favored, but the model is not in love with Alabama. It's not in love with Georgia particularly either. It is weird because it does have Alabama ranked higher than LSU, but it does like this LSU team, and this LSU team now kind of has the opportunity to play spoiler here for kind of the rest of the season. So we'll have to see. Again, Brian Kelly was fired before the bye week, so we're gonna have to see. We haven't seen this team yet since he was fired. So maybe this team is going to be like, oh yeah, we're great, we're in good shape now, we're good. Or maybe it's going to be, no, okay, we're going to pack it in. But I this is a rivalry. LSU Alabama was one of the bigger rivalries in the SEC. it's always a relatively competitive game. I'd kind of rather take the points here and maybe even a little money line here because I kind of think at a certain point Bama and Georgia have been kind of we talk a lot about how Georgia has been just like keeps getting away with it. Alabama has continued to get away with it for a while there too. They've been kind of just skating through and no one's really been paying much attention to them. I think they're kind of due for a loss somewhere around here too.
They've gotten away with it, but against some really good teams. I mean, it's not
True,
like
like Missouri, Missouri, Vanderbilt was still a close game, even though they did win. They did win and cover that. That was still very close. Missouri, they only won by 3 when the spread was 6.5. Um, what else here?
And they basically needed a, I don't want to say miracle, but they needed a really nice break to get out of South Carolina.
yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
I just forgot about that. Yeah, like yeah,
Like
go.
that, I mean that game looked over, and
True.
then it wasn't. You know, that's it's this is tough for because I would love this as a trap game if this was at LSU. This would be so fascinating if this was at LSU. Like interim coach going into Tuscaloosa is not exactly the best place to coach your first game. But this LSU team still does have talent. Like this is not just some devoid roster where the coach got fired because the program was dead. The coach got fired because the coach was Brian Kelly. Um, and if you are ever going to tell me team responds positively to a coach being fired, Brian Kelly getting kicked out of the building would make everybody feel a lot better. Like, have you seen the stories coming out from like former players about just how badly, like, I mean, it should not be a surprise to anybody who knows Brian Kelly's past, but like, yeah, I think that him being gone is arguably a positive for this LSU team. Because the other thing too is like everybody's like, you know, people want to say, oh, well, okay, yeah, he's a bad person, but like he was still a good coach, right? But like, was he? LSU never won big games under him, ever. What like even this year? What was LSU's claim to fame? They
They
beat
beat
Clemson
Clemson.
in
Come
week
on.
one. Who
That was a
cares?
playoff preview. What, did you miss that part?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I kind of like the I kind of like the 11.5
Wow.
here with LSU. I don't know if I'm going to play it. Well, boy, is it really tempting because yeah, like you said, this Alabama team just feel it's a less extreme version of Georgia because I don't think they've been doing the whole like get down at half, look absolutely unplayable in the first half, and then come back and win the game thing that Georgia's been doing, and they have looked significantly better at home, right? With the wins over Tennessee and Vanderbilt versus granted Missouri pretty good team, but needing a late win against or a late score against Missouri to win on the road, needing that basically miracle to beat South Carolina. I think this in a rivalry game, 11.5 is a lot of points to play. Maybe they're fishing for an overreaction on coach got fired, but we've seen it a lot of times where coach get fired. That's a really good time to play the team.
Wow. I understand and cannot disagree with the premise there. Um, here's the one thing I will push back on is, you know, the problem with this team under Kelly was that they didn't play defense, and they finally got that fixed this year. Oops, sorry. I just don't think. Get the laser pointer back here. You know, I think that this team is fatally flawed on offense. If I go back to the preseason, I just thought, look, I don't think Nussmeier's that good. You know, all this talk about him is like he was the NFL first rounder. Now he's not. He's just not that good. And I think I don't think that getting rid of Brian Kelly suddenly makes the offense better. It will be a better effort, probably. I just think that I've got these 4 units here. I've got a really good Alabama offense, a really good Alabama defense, an exceptional LSU defense, and this is a unit I think that cracks. So I think if there's a play here, I kind of like Alabama and maybe LSU first half, just with that whole kind of new coach push. I just can't see it for 4 quarters on the road. but interesting. This is definitely one to watch, for sure. And I guess here's the other thing too, and then I'll let you. Robert, sounds like you want to say something too. Interim coach Frank Wilson against Kalen DeBoer. That's not like he's going up against just a kind of, to use a favorite punching bag here. It's not like he's going up against a Philip John Fleck on the other side of the field. He's got one of the elite guys he has to go against here. So, Robert, you were going to say.
I will say, yeah. I mean, with the whole debacle with the Brian Kelly firing, kind of not really swept under the rug, but kind of forgotten in the shuffle, is that they did fire the offensive coordinator as well, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that means something. What I will say is it does add some variability into this offense. Like, for example, new offensive coordinator, they might be calling completely different plays. They might be like, yeah, we're going to get rid of all the old plays. We're going to call brand new stuff or slightly different stuff, right? And I think that might be, if there is a reason, and you do see this in some teams sometimes, when it's like, oh, hey, why is this team suddenly doing better after they fired their coach? I think some of that is that the people who were calling plays before are generally not calling plays anymore. So now it's like, oh, what player? Like, I think a lot of the reasons coaches are bad is because they become way too predictable, and people can see the film and be like, oh, they're going to do this, they're going to do this, and then all of a sudden you remove that, and it's like, oh, okay, well, they're not doing that anymore, and we prepared for them to do that, and they're not. So that's how you kind of get caught, right? And I think that piece right there, that is kind of a bit bullish for LSU here. Is their offense enough? I do think it is fatally flawed. But I will say that Bama has definitely not been a world beater this year. They've beaten Georgia, but we've seen what hasn't beaten Georgia, or has come very close to beat Georgia, and that includes Auburn and Auburn, Ole Miss, and even Florida. Right? This is, I like, Alabama has been kind of narrowly avoiding disaster here for a while, and maybe maybe catches up with them.
Sounds like, if I understand your point, if we put it another way, LSU moneyline would be the play if they had Jerry Neuheisel on staff. Is that fair?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. Speaking of which, our last game, Nebraska at New CLA, giving 2.5. Tricky one, really tricky one, given that Raiola is out for the season, Nebraska quarterback. UCLA has kind of, I won't say come back to earth, but they've kind of normalized or regressed to the mean a little bit here. I don't know how much you throw out all the metrics here, given Raiola's out. Clearly, this Apex Plus is a team metric, so it's not for the backup who didn't seem to like to throw the ball in good spots against USC. Now he gets to go on the road. Congratulations. UCLA, pretty good running the ball. Nebraska, not so much. Both these run defenses just stink. I was, as a USC guy, I was licking my chops looking at this run defense of Nebraska and said, that's just easy money right there. Well, look who's got easier money right here. UCLA's defense. Really interesting. I think the thing that's intriguing about this is just the matchup of passing offenses. You've got I guess I'd say pretty respectable passing defense for a Big Ten team in UCLA. But as I pointed out, this Nebraska pass defense is elite, one of the top 3 in all of FBS, and that's such an interesting matchup to me. Is an exceptional elite pass defense for Nebraska against a Nico who's proven to be both fatally flawed at times and amazing, depending on which Jerry Neuheisel he gets or whatever. That's a really interesting matchup to me. You have that, and on the other side, you've got a quarterback that looked really bad against USC. Now, in fairness, the toughest game when you have an injury like that is the game where the injury happens because you're in oh crap mode. Now they at least have a time for Holgerson to figure out, okay, what does this kid do well? He probably didn't even know the guy's name, sarcastically, until he had to put him in the game. Now he has a chance to do a game plan that's more fitting to his skills, whatever they might or might not be. There's a lot of unknowns here, and it seems like the market kind of throws them all in the blender and says home field for UCLA, and otherwise we don't know. I don't see this as bettable at all, but if Robert gave me 76 US, 100 Canadian, I'd probably take Nebraska money line on this. I just think there's a lot more upside, and I guess going back to what how I like to break these down at times. The one unit that stands out here is the Nebraska defense, and I think that will travel. Robert, you have Nebraska winning straight up too. Now you have Raiola at quarterback, so we might just have to kind of throw
Yeah,
that
that's a
out.
problem.
Yeah, but
Hmm. But to be fair, you kind of do
I
too,
do.
right?
Yep.
So,
Yeah. But I think if you can get like a plus 140 or something, Nebraska's kind of playable here at money line.
yeah, I think so. Cause who's the backup
His
now?
his,
He's played
his
before,
name is
right?
it's I'm gonna say Leaf, but not like Ryan Leaf. I think it's like Leef. He's
Oh,
from
okay,
from Compton. He's a California guy, so maybe he's one of those
okay,
stories where they have like 150
Yeah, TJ Latif.
Latif. Pardon me.
Latif.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they didn't get like he played for what most of the second half.
I think Raiola was hurt at the end
Uh,
of the second quarter,
yeah,
so
Yeah,
yeah, he
so he
played
played all
played
the
the second
second
half.
half.
Yeah.
but
And they didn't do anything, but at the same point in time, they weren't doing a ton before then either, right? It just kind of like basically the only thing that happened. I think USC scored what 2 field goals, and that was basically the rest of the game, right?
Hmm.
Or a touchdown. I can't remember what it was specifically, but no, I like this Nebraska team is good, right? You can see it here. Like this kid had no idea he was about to play, right? Like literally, he's just like, all right, you're playing now the second half against one of the top teams in the country. New CLA is better than it was before, but the question is by like how much here, right? Like that's the thing. They looked really really good, but teams have kind of started figuring out what they're doing. Indiana definitely did.
Yes.
Um, so so this is the thing, right? I Rayola is good, but like there's a lot of times when I'm just like you should be doing better, right? That's kind of my thing with Nebraska. Like I like Rayola, and I don't know if it's maybe he's not the fit at Nebraska, or maybe Nebraska as a whole is just not as good as we think it is, and he's just carrying the team. But it feels like every time Nebraska just like kind of seemingly doesn't cover some spreads, it like they really don't cover spreads very much, but it just feels like every time I'm like you should be doing a bit better than this, you should be doing better than this, you should, and it just feels like every time I keep saying that. And maybe another person at quarterback, like there's been some speculation that Rayola I think might transfer at the end of this year. I don't know if he will or not, I have no idea, but like maybe this Nebraska team needs to go in a bit of a different direction, and maybe a different quarterback might be a better fit. I don't know. I don't know. I'm intrigued by it. I think I have taken Nebraska a little bit here. I do kind of like it. I don't like, again, UCLA is not nearly as bad as it was before, but it's not like this is now suddenly one of the best teams in the Big Ten. It's still not an amazing team. They got crushed by Indiana just like everybody else has. I think Nebraska figures out how to play offense with the new quarterback, and they make a game of this. So yeah, I'll take Nebraska with some points here.
Yeah, I guess another point of reference too is a Nebraska team that can hold USC to 21. That's a good defense, and I think that they can cause a lot of
Yeah.
problems for UCLA. What do you think, Isaiah?
yeah, I think the UCLA thing is kind of it's like, okay, it's a cool story, right? You got rid of the guy who had no business being there coaching, and it's patently obvious that he had no business coaching based on how they played afterwards, right? But at the same time, dead Penn State team, dead Michigan State team, October Maryland,
Mm-hmm.
and then you played Indiana and got wiped off the face of the earth. Like you're playing better football, but that doesn't necessarily make you a quote unquote good team. And when I look at what I think UCLA needs to do to win a game like this, we know what the weakness is on this Nebraska team outside of the injury situation. It is that running defense. UCLA is not a team that really concerns me as far as their ability to go and win a game on the ground. That's just not really like everyone looks at this team and it's like, yeah, this is like Nico is going to be Nico, and win the game if it's good Nico. I don't trust him against this passing defense. And I think Nebraska is perfectly content to play a really low scoring game on the road and let that pass defense kind of carry them. It's like, if UCLA's run game shows up today and beats us, okay, so be it. But I think the path for Nebraska to win this game without a serviceable quarterback is here. I haven't heard a lot of great things from the Nebraska folks I know about the backup. They don't sound super enthusiastic about it, but again, I don't think they need to. I think this is a game where you can just kind of run the ball. You can scheme up, shorter passes, some short slants and stuff to take advantage. This isn't exactly a good passing defense either. It's not like abysmal, but it's not good. So I think that I like Nebraska out right here as well. I think this gets a lot tougher for Nebraska without Raiola after this.
Yes.
But I think they can get this one. The other thing too is it's you're not going to Ohio State. You're not going to Oregon. You're not going to Washington, right? It's an empty Rose Bowl. So
yeah.
So I like Nebraska here.
Yeah,
right.
Very fair. Nebraska will really enjoy facing that Iowa defense with their rookie quarterback here. That'll be a million laughs. Oh my God. Total on that one's got to be. You know what? Let's end on that. Since that's our last game, we appreciate it. But let's just kind of go out. Just a little look ahead total here. Where is that game? Is that at? Do you know? Is it at Nebraska or is it at Kinnick, which, if you don't know, is actually named after a former labor leader in England, right? Niall Kinnick. I'm joking. No, it's not.
I mean, that is his name, but...
Yes. I was confused by that. I actually thought that was the case for a moment there. I thought, that's kind of weird that they do that in Iowa. Are you looking that up, Isaiah? Or?
I'm looking it up.
I think.
Yeah, no, they're home. They're home for the Cy-Hawk game.
So what kind of total are you thinking for backup Nebraska quarterback hosting Iowa and their dynamic offense? I'll go first. I'll say 32.
Yeah, so actually I was just going to say, is Nebraska's quarterback better or worse than Iowa's quarterback? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, that's maybe a toss-up. Like, we're gonna get to that point, and, like, both offenses are gonna be like -2. Yeah, I'll go 35, but like, no, yeah, I could see 32.
All right, Isaiah, to wrap up the podcast.
It's gonna be under. I mean, we've had Iowa Nebraska games under 30.
Yeah,
before.
I was gonna say be bold. Start with a 2-handle. I'd love it.
I kind of want to give you 29.
There you go. I like it. All right. Cool. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. Robert, we will see you in a bit. Robert's going on assignment for a secret assignment, looking for new. Okay, I'll spill the beans here. We've grown by leaps and bounds, and Robert will be scouting for new headquarters for the Sharpest Sports corporate offices. So good luck with that.
Yes, I'm going. It's okay. I'm going on vacation. That's fine. I'm going on a bit, so I will be gone for a bit, but I will still be editing the pod, and I will still be providing my lines and some commentary. I hope that will be read in my absence.
Yes.
So yeah, but filling in for me will be Isaiah. But don't worry, I'll be back for American Thanksgiving. So before the big games of American Thanksgiving. So yeah, but and like American Thanksgiving Conference Championship weekend. But yeah, I'm just gone for a bit. But yeah, I will obviously still be watching games. And the podcast will still keep coming out. They're going to continue in my absence. And yeah, I will see everybody before America Thanksgiving.
And maybe you'll catch a video too on like how to
I heard some rumors that Robert's jetting off to go recruit our YouTube.
Yes,
friends.
That's where I was going. Robert might be watching a video too on how to draw a tree, right?
Yeah, the YouTuber from Vietnam that is randomly streaming college football games. It's so funny because you see these like YouTube pages, and it's just like, oh, this is my like YouTube, like this is my YouTube vlogging channel, and like when I travel through Vietnam or something, and then you look at the videos, it's all just like college game day videos, and it's like, what's wrong with Iowa's offense? It's hilarious. I just look, you got to find these people on YouTube. It's hilarious. It's so funny. Like it's so clear what they're doing, but YouTube just has to shut them down now for some reason. It's just funny,
Yeah.
but.
All right. Well, enjoy it. Well deserved. Isaiah, I will see you next week on the podcast proper, and everybody else, thank you for joining us, and good luck this weekend.
See everybody.
Bye.